Welcome to the Spirit of Truth video podcast. Joining me today, straight from the Holy Land, is my very good friend, Gabriel Rymberg. Welcome, Gabriel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, Gabriel's got a lot of exciting projects and a lot of cool ones that are coming up. He's been part of some really interesting ones, and we're going to get to that. But first, Gabriel, could you just kind of give us a little background, introduction, maybe how you found the Urantia book?
Yeah, well, actually, it found me, I think. I was traveling in Latvia, and I had a long bus ride with a bus full of Russian people, and only one person was speaking English. And we went into spiritual stuff, and we had a long ride to talk about things. And he just mentioned the Urantia book. He says, oh, you should take a look. I wrote down Urantia, and then I forgot about it. And some weeks later, I found a piece of paper. I downloaded it to my phone. It was a small phone.
Sure.
And I just started reading. And I couldn't stop.
Wow.
1 year after that, I was already translating to Hebrew, which I finished in the end of, the first draft was finished in the end of 2007.
Well, let me fill people in on this one because
Okay.
Gabriel was responsible for doing the Hebrew translation for the Urantia book, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal. Go
So
ahead.
it changed my life. And some of the things we're doing today will not happen. Well, all things will not happen if that didn't happen. And so that's how the book changed my life. But I think the most important thing is I was born Jewish, and I had precious little knowledge about Jesus. And reading part 4 and first understanding who Michael is and then who Jesus is really changed my life.
So take me back. You got the Urantia book. You started just reading it on your phone. And then how long did it take you to get to part 4 where you really discovered Jesus?
So I started reading the foreword and I couldn't understand anything. So I went back to the guy and he says, what's this? What's this? He says, go to part 4. So I actually started at part 4.
Okay.
And finished. And then I went back all the way to the beginning and started reading all of it. And
Okay.
I spent 6 months reading, basically.
Okay.
And somewhere in between, I contacted the foundation and asked them if they wanted translated to Hebrew. I don't know what I did that, but it's like,
awesome, man.
yeah. So I did, and they did. They tested me, and about after a year, there's a very elaborate and very meticulous process that is used to translate the Urantia book. And if you want, I can share a little bit about that.
Sure.
It's really well thought of. And well, later I started a translation company, so I know a little bit about translations now. But way back then, I was just following the process with Tamara and George,
Okay.
Marilyn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I mean, a lot of people don't know Gabriel, but he is a really interesting story. Being born Jewish, coming up in Israel, being a follower of Jesus, and now he's on this American tour, essentially sharing his good news of his upcoming projects. And it's really exciting stuff. I know that you've been working on really cool things for a long time, but this one's really unique. And I thought, maybe we could just kind of go back and forth a little bit about some of the projects and some of the inspiration behind this project. If you want to share with the audience what you're working on.
Yeah. So I'm asking myself, how can we make this world a little bit better than it is now? I mean, how can we leave it in a better place? And part 4 of the Urantia book has a lot of what I call marching orders. It's like the revelators are telling us stuff that they think we should do. And I read it many times, and there are specific paragraphs that were calling me out and saying, look at this, look at this, look at this. And eventually I landed on several that were very inspiring that have to do with sharing Jesus with the world. And little by little, and it's really like following the breadcrumbs, several big projects have been materializing over the last 9 years. And they have a life of their own, basically, where I'm just following the breadcrumbs.
Okay.
But right now it's coming to a point where there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of enthusiasm, and people are joining. And I came to the United States to tell Urantians about these things, and hopefully have people be inspired by this and help us.
So let us hear. What is it? What do you got? What is the cool project that you're working on right now?
Okay, so the first one is an app. and we named it the Jesus Metaverse. It might not stay that name, but
Okay.
and what it is you can think of it as a Wikipedia based on part 4 of the Urantia book. We're writing it from scratch, so every page on that Wikipedia is a new secondary work about something. And that Wikipedia has also a social platform that will allow people to get to know Jesus, know what he was, and then start discussing it with other people, and perhaps also be mentored by mentors.
Cool.
So we're putting together two things, and we're basing it all on part 4 of the Urantia book. But before we started doing that, we actually built a computer model that takes information for the entire part 4 of the Urantia book and the untold story of Jesus, which is an amazing reference. And we built a knowledge graph.
Okay.
This is from computer science. So we have thousands of data points, and every data point like that is going to be a page in the Wikipedia. But for example, you can ask this computer model, tell me every time Jesus and Simon Peter did something together, and tell me when and where. And then we can display all this information in a special page that is dedicated to the relationship between Jesus and Simon Peter. And then you can read all of this. Of course, all the information is there, but somebody now, a Urantia book student, is going through the entire part 4 just for the purpose of writing one essay about Simon Peter and Jesus. So, and we're doing this hundreds of times on different topics and places and people and relationships and events. So we're basically repurposing part 4 of the Urantia book in a way that I think it starts to be similar to what they use up in the mentioned worlds. They probably have other technologies to represent information, but it feels inspired because the book now comes to life.
Yeah. That's just what I was going to say, is that you're bringing this into a tangible way now. That's what I love about secondary works and Urantia book readers who are inspired to do secondary works, is that it allows for revelation to be a little bit more digestible for people in the everyday circumstances of these things, of how we see it. So what you're doing, bringing Jesus to life, and especially his interpersonal relationships and things like that, I foresee that allowing people to feel more related to him and can connect in his experiences more, I feel like.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on right now. I mean, people in the US probably saw the Super Bowl ads from He Gets Us. There's The Chosen, the TV series. So there's another vector now happening where Jesus is being displayed in a different way that really is new and refreshing. And the Urantia book is like the director's cut of his life. So using the Urantia book in this way to make it accessible to people who, like me, didn't know, don't know a lot about Jesus. Obviously, they heard the name.
Sure.
But even if they're Christian, and especially if they're not Christian, we want to share with them something that is not connected necessarily to Christianity. So we use the term, let us tell you stories about Jesus before Christianity. And then perhaps you'll be interested in learning what Jesus was. He was not only the most famous Jew in the world, but he was also an accomplished spiritual teacher.
Oh, yeah.
And anybody can benefit from that. And especially the young people today looking for meaning and purpose and hope.
Well, I love that word. I'm reflecting on Jesus before Christianity, and you could put it in some sense of maybe placing Jesus above Christianity, which should happen, but still the notion of before there ever was Christianity, Jesus wasn't teaching about, the atonement doctrine and the church and stuff like that. I mean, he did tell Peter, upon this rock, I'll build my church, but it wasn't in the institutional sense that we have now. So it is really interesting to reflect on what was Jesus's message before there was ever a church. What was he telling people? He wasn't saying, I'm going to die for you and then start this church, right? So I appreciate that you're going there. It's a good spot to go.
Yeah, it's going to help people who are, well, let's say there's 6 billion people out there who are not Christian. And I would imagine that most of them are never going to be Christian or not interested right now to become Christians. But if we want to talk to them about Jesus, we have to somehow make it accessible to them and not threatening. Like, we're not going to make you go to church or read the Bible or become Christian just to tell you about Jesus. there's another way.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with being Christian or going to the Bible, reading the Bible, or going to church. But if you're not interested in that, perhaps you are going to be interested in what Jesus was, which is basically what we want to say and show people. We want them to see that.
Yeah. And now that's easier said than done, especially when we talk about how does following Jesus get socialized in a group setting, group community. You know, it's like, I know you and I were just talking about how people gather around these things, you know. I don't know if you've had any insights into what you would like to see going forward or try to inspire going forward as far as the gathering.
Well, I see a lot of power in what I call circles of trust, or you can even say prayer circles. A group of Urantians have started a prayer circle like that right the day that the Ukraine war started.
Oh, that's right.
21st.
That's right. Yeah.
And we've been going every day, 12 Eastern, every day since.
Since then, you've been going every day. Wow, that's
yeah.
commitment, man.
And what's beautiful about that is we pray out loud. We sit in meditation together. But sometimes we share things that are private. So, for example, Jesus before Christianity came from Bobby Dreyer. And I just brought the book, I brought to the prayer circle this question of how can I share Jesus with people who are not Christians? And she just said that. And it was an inspired meme. So what I see is circles like that forming more and more. And this app, the Jesus Metaverse, is going to be a platform where people can get together and then perhaps decide to do something like a circle of trust or explore working in the real world together, doing something about spirituality, about making this world a better place in whatever form they want. So we see this in the future as being part of this platform, this app that we're building. But the first part we're working on right now is more sharing the stories, bringing it to life in a way that people can experience it on their computer very, very simply and beautifully. We're using AI / post-processed art by Gary Tong. And this product is designed by Lisa, his wife, and she's doing an amazing job.
Those two are very talented. And it's nice to have talented Urantia book readers working together, man.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Now, I know that there's other aspects to this Jesus project that you're working on. I know that there's actual physical brick and mortar aspects as well, right? Could you tell us a little bit about that too?
Yeah. So the seeds for what we call now the Jesus Museum, which will be in Israel, were planted almost 9 years ago. And I just woke up one morning and I saw in my mind's eye, just before I opened the eyes, I saw a picture of the Sea of Galilee, and I had no idea what to do. And many, many, many years and turns and twists later, we now can say that we want to build a museum for Jesus. And we want to take people back in time using the latest technology 2,000 years ago and tell them the story of what happened there, what Jesus was, what he said, in an immersive way. So people will walk into this venue and be transported back in time.
Cool.
But then we also want to tell the story of what happened since, how this entire civilization was affected by the teaching and the bestowal mission of this person. And we want to tell this story to everybody, not just to Christians. I go around Israel and I tell people I want to build a Jesus Museum, and the eyebrows pop up and there isn't a place like this anywhere on the planet. I'd like to see. It's like, okay, that's
a good idea.
This Jesus, I know his name, but what was he about? I don't know. And most Jewish people don't. And it's even more funny than that, because I was in a wedding last year in Israel. Everybody was Jewish. And somebody waves me over and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" So I joked and I said, "I'm working for the most famous Jew in the world." And he knew I was talking about Jesus, so he laughed. But there was another guy who didn't. And he thought I was working for Albert Einstein. And then I said, "No, I'm working for Jesus." And he was dead serious. He looked at me and he said, "Jesus was Christian." And then I understood. And then when Bobby said, Jesus before Christianity, this is the angle. Let's invite people to a place where they can see the stories about this person and relate to them, even if they're from a different institution or religion. And there's 500,000 pilgrims going to this venue that we're about to lease. We're negotiating a lease on this venue. And 1.5 million pilgrims come to Israel every year. And there's many Jewish people who want to know the story.
Oh, yeah.
So, and we are connecting this to something called the Ancient Galilee Boat. So we're going to put this museum in the same building where now has been displayed for 30 years a boat that was excavated from the Sea of Galilee. It's carbon dated to the time of Jesus. And the historians who checked it out say, you know, the Romans didn't build boats like this, because there's many Romans boats that are available to explore. So they say something is different about the way the boards were processed and joined together in this boat. And we know from the Urantia book that Jesus and Zebedee pioneered a new type of boat. And after 5 years, it was so good that everybody was buying that boat. So perhaps this boat was actually designed or even built by the master.
Wow.
So we're going to connect the story to this boat.
Okay.
And then start. That would be the starting point.
Yeah, and I know that you were talking about incorporating all sorts of new technology and stuff as far as the experience that's provided coming into the location that you're making, the museum.
Yeah. So today there's immersive experiences of many kinds. There's projection. You can see the Van Gogh experience, and you're basically walking into a huge hall, and every surface is projected, and you hear sounds, and there's light and sound and music all together. There's also holographic projection technologies existing today that basically it's like the Star Trek holodeck. You know, you're walking into, and there's a screen that projects something in midair. And I'm inspired by several passages in the Urantia book where in Jerusalem and other planets in Mansonia, you're basically walking through a museum that is like, I don't know what they're using, but you're seeing stories being presented to you. And they even say that mortals that come from those planets are responsible for telling the stories of their planet of origin. So I'm sure there's technology there that allows you to tell stories. And I'm inspired to do something like this with the technologies we have today. And certainly we have the stories. We have the Urantia book and everything that happened since. It's extremely well documented.
Yeah, man, that's great. Well, I find it so fascinating because that Holy Land over there, it's so represented by the Abrahamic religions. I mean, there's a big influence there. And yet here's this huge attractive power of the Master, of Jesus, and what it can provide in liberation for all of us, in spite of whatever institutionalized religion is going on. That it is kind of like a crossroads. And I'm wondering if maybe you feel deeper understanding in the plan of why Melchizedek came in that same region. Pretty much Adam and Eve were in that area, and then Jesus was bestowed in that area, in that Jerusalem area, of that crossroads. You see like such divine intelligence of laying down information right there. I mean, you live there, so maybe you have some insight into that.
Well, I think this is a little bit above my pay grade. I just feel that, well, specifically about Jesus, the Urantia book tells us that they chose Mary and Joseph for a reason, and they chose that particular area because of and the timing within the Roman Empire lifetime. There's a lot of traffic. Obviously, Jesus got a lot of opportunities to study how different religions, different traditions, different cultures. He traveled. And all that was afforded because he was geographically there. I mean, if he had to go to India, that would be a 2, 3, 4 year journey and then back. I guess that's why they chose those places. Yeah.
But now you're blessed with all of these pilgrims who do go through there, you know, from different regions still. Yeah. And now setting up the big sign of Jesus, kind of informing them a little bit more about the Master. That's a great thing, man. Yeah,
the museum, you know, we're working with a law firm that is a strategic business partner for us. They're basically going to help us build a business plan. And there's also a creative team, and there's several of us in our Center for Unity team, and Stephen Marble is one of them, who is going to be creatively responsible for the content. And Stephen has designed in the past the Back to the Future ride for Universal Studios.
Cool.
He's done films, and he's a very creative person. So he's on our side, but we also have another company that designs venues like this. And Stephen came to Israel last month, and we spent 2 weeks traveling in the Sea of Galilee in Jerusalem and meeting our partners in this team. So this museum thing is not a fancy anymore. It's, we have a venue. They want to do something like this there. We have a strategic partner that can build the program, execute it. We have a creative team that is ready. And so we're now working on all these aspects so we can prepare a donors package. It's not a small project.
No.
But it's something that I think many people who are Jesusonians or lovers of Jesus would be interested. The key there would be to present a story that everybody can relate to. I read a piece in one of the Israeli newspapers that was titled, "Why Isn't There a Jesus Museum?" And one of the things he said is, it's going to be hard for all the denominations to agree on what to present there. So perhaps that's why a person who was born Jewish had put in his, they put in my mind this idea, which is, the lawyers that are working for us, they said, we don't know if you're going to do this museum, but somebody will. It has to exist. And they're not even Christian. So we want to build something that not only the pilgrims will feel comfortable with the story and the narrative, but also other religions, Jewish people, Christian, Muslim. I mean, Israel is a melting pot of religion.
Yeah. Such a holy, holy land where so many people who are believers gather. Have you, just out of curiosity, have you faced any backlash, any, red tape that it's been a challenge to get through?
No. This area of the Sea of Galilee is heavily touristed. Like it's a tourist attraction for pilgrims. The numbers are big, and for the state of Israel, it's revenue. It's tourism revenue, and they need more attractions. The state of Israel is on a plan to, basically the goal is to get 10 million tourists by 2030. So they're building a lot of hotel rooms and hostels and places for people to stay. But if you go around the Sea of Galilee, there's not much to see. I mean, people connect to the energy and the stories, but they usually go to churches. There's a few of them. This place will be a pearl, for the entire state of Israel, and an attraction. And actually, we're going to make it dual use. So in the day, it will be a museum, and in the evening, it could be a performance venue for movies and theater and music. So everybody around this region can enjoy a state-of-the-art place.
Ooh, a Jesus Film Festival. That'd be cool, man. Yeah. Well,
or conferences.
Yeah, conferences too. Yeah. Just being right by the Sea of Galilee, near where they did the church. It's near the Church of the Beatitudes, or no?
It's 10 minutes away.
10 minutes.
It's on the western shore.
Okay.
The Church of Beatitudes and the Mount of Beatitudes is on the northwestern shore.
Okay.
But it's really very close.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't wait. There'll be such a good opportunity to kind of connect remotely too with whatever technology you have. I think the education potential is really great there. Especially for young people. I don't know. You got a plan for engaging young people in all of this.
we I was inspired, and Sandra, my wife, is working with me on this, as are many other people. But they recently built a new hotel in Magdala, and when you go there, it's built by Mexicans. So the money came from Mexico, the idea came from Mexico.
Wow.
And they bring a lot of young people especially from Latin America, to volunteer there. So the receptionists, the people who guide you and take you around and explain to you, they're volunteers. So I love to see Urantians coming on pilgrimage to the Holy Land and working in the Jesus Museum and explaining people, their own version of Jesus, and talking about the Urantia book and talking about their own personal experiences. So there will be an opportunity.
Yeah, that'd be great. Internships for Urantia book readers on ministry in the Holy Land. You know, and then it kind of like, you know, with the Urantia book, there's not this real organized religion that comes about. There's a unifying voice, and that's the teachings of Jesus, you know. And it's really interesting to see what will come about in the future as far as how is it socialized in group engagement. Because we have our conferences, we have a lot of educational outreach, a lot of cool projects like what you're doing and other things. And then when will it come to a point where people want to gather more than just people who are students, but just they're being fulfilled by Jesus's teachings as portrayed this way?
You know, they say, the revelators told us that this experiment was never actually executed. Living these teachings, you know, oh, welcome. I'm a very simplistic, I've got an engineering mind. So sometimes I take things very literally. And when people ask me, what is it that you like about these teachings? Then I simplify and I say, if I can, at any point during my day, treat myself and any other person and the environment, but mostly, you know, sentient beings or persons, as brothers and sisters. If I could really, when I see a person that I'm engaged in either ministry or business or collaboration or just getting service or providing service, an interaction with another human he's not literally, she or he, we're not born from the same womb. We don't have the same mother and father. But if we think and treat each other as brothers and sisters, what would this world look like? If, you know, you're not going to cheat your brother out of, you know, you're going to hike the price or give him less than what he deserves or be rude, or, you know, you're going to think twice before doing that if it's your brother or your cousin or somebody from your family, right? But what if we could do this with other people, everybody? Yeah. This world will not look the same. So absolutely, when we get there, we have to do things differently. And it starts within our relationships, you know, with each other. And that's a very simple teaching, and it's very hard to do. And when you start doing this, you find out where is your blockage. You know, somebody cuts you on the road and you get mad, right? Right. And the instinct is, oh, no, this person is rude, this person is maleducated, whatever. Oh, maybe this person is going to a hospital and they need to get there fast, and they don't have the energy to look around and be polite. And you just, you know, you're trying to go out of your way to understand and be compassionate and love one more person today. So all those things are very simple, but they were never tried en masse. And for people to know what the master said and did, we want to show them, you know. So that's what we're engaged in, showing what people everywhere around the world what Jesus was.
I believe in that. Demonstration is really important, living it, because so often Urantia book readers can be quoting about Jesus or talk of lines from the Urantia book, but to actually live that, so that is the reflection of Jesus's demonstration as a human. And what a unique opportunity too, because a God coming here and living a human experience that we can then learn directly from. I think that it's of the utmost importance to get this information out there so that other people can kind of be liberated in how their personal experience can be elevated and actually have some value. So I appreciate that you're doing something like that.
You know, I tell a joke. I told this joke, it just came out. Yeah. But I was talking to our lawyers, who one of them is a Messianic Jew and the other is a Jew.
Okay.
So one person believes in Christ and the other is just a regular Jew. So I was sitting in their office with Stephen, and I said, you know, you can put a whole lot of ketchup on this, but it's very hard to eat the fact that God was here as human, and he was both human and divine. It's a fantastic story. How do you explain it to somebody? It's a mouthful. It's like, put a lot of ketchup on it. It's still hard to eat it. So the more we can display things, the more we can tell stories. Stories are very powerful. Cinema is very powerful. The movies, So our third project is exactly that. Can we show Jesus on the big screen based on the Urantia book? There's a whole bunch of characters there. There's so much drama and twists of the plot. Those characters are coming to life now in our mind, as some of our team members are actually starting to write scripts. And I know there's other Urantians. I know some of them are writing scripts. So a lot of people are feeling that it's time to show the Jesus from the Urantia papers on the big screen. And not just in a feature, but long format. There's so many stories.
There's so much content. Oh my God.
So you can tell hours and hours and hours. And, we want to start with something, but we see that this will be like a streaming television series.
Okay.
That basically never ends.
Sure.
There's so much material there and people don't know about it. And then you show them and they get inspired. And then this world will change slowly, one person at a time.
Have you personally felt out in your neck of the woods where you live, when you explain these projects, other than like your team, your lawyers or anything like that, just other people, did they get a little bit more curious about Jesus or the Urantia book or anything like that?
I haven't started. We try to talk a little bit to Christians who are not Urantians, but mostly we get the question, why are you using the Urantia book? And they don't know it. And then you start to explain. And then if they're Bible people, then they say, well, I may be interested, but most likely, why aren't you using the Bible? And then I have to say, well, there's something called the Urantia book, and it is like the director's cut of the Bible. There's 445,000 words just about the life and teachings of Jesus, and all the missing years and so much information. We're using it because it's available, and it tells the story in so much detail that it's just begging to be used. So that's why we're using it.
Well, hallelujah, man. I support you in your efforts, however, and I know it's a big project, so I know it'll take wings. I just want to pivot a little bit here and maybe just kind of go back in some of the history of you and I have been friends for a little while. I remember it was in like 2015 or 2016 when I did my first Urantia Association International Conference when we were in Budapest, and you and I got to be roommates. And that was a really cool experience to finally meet someone from the Holy Land and to hear about your story. And that was before you were married. Mm-hmm. And now you're with Sandra. And maybe you could just kind of give us some insight on what it's like to meet another international Urantia book reader and then pair up and get married. And now you guys are like working together and stuff.
Well, the credit for that goes to Diane Lebrec and Lynn St. Pierre. So Diane is a wonderful Urantia student, and she organizes trips to the Holy Land for Urantians. And the first one she did was in 2014. So Paula Thompson put us together when she said, I'm going to Israel. And I picked her up from the airport, and we spent a long time together. And then she took off and she did her reconnaissance tour. And then in 2014, she actually came with a group. And Lynn and Gaetan were part of that group.
Okay.
And I got close with Lynn and Gaetan, and I said, I'm looking for a partner. And they just hooked Sandra and me together.
They knew. Oh, wow. Okay.
And, they asked me, would you like to see a picture? She asked me, would you like to see a picture of Sandra? I said, sure. And she said, well, she lives in Switzerland. What? And Sandra said the same thing. He lives in Israel. What?
Yeah.
But after a couple months, that Sandra finished her master's and we started talking on Skype. And 3 months later, I flew to the IC in Massachusetts, and I think it was Amherst. And I took a ride with Lila and Avi. Avi was actually Avi is graduated now, but he was part of the Urantia translation to Hebrew team.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So they took me to Amherst, and then I met Sandra, and the rest is history. I managed to, not only me, but she actually left Switzerland and came to live with me in the Holy Land, and it was not easy for her. But now she feels at home.
Oh, it took some getting used to?
Yeah, she's studying Hebrew, which was going to be her 7th language.
Wow.
And she's built us a beautiful home. And actually, this is an open invitation to Urantians, because everybody I tell, come to Israel. We'll take care of you. We have a guest room. Just make sure you book before. No charge.
Oh.
But it's wonderful, you know, and Diane's trips are hopefully going to pick up again after COVID. And it's a wonderful experience to go through with a bus full of Urantians to the actual places where things happen, sit down, have a study group and read and share. It's a very fragrant experience. And I'll just tell a joke about David Kulicki that also graduated. He was on that first trip with Marilyn. And in the first circle, we're in Jerusalem. So everybody shared why they came on this trip. And David said, I asked Diane to organize this. He actually was the instigator.
Of course.
And he said, I had a vision that I will be in the mansion world somewhere, or in Jerusalem somewhere, and I'll meet a new person, a new being. And they will ask me, where are you from? I will say, I'm actually from the world of Michael. And that person will say, oh, you're in Urantia. And then the next question will be, did you go to Jerusalem? And David said, I didn't want to be in the position of saying I was too busy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, this is a very special experience, and Diane really works very hard to make it a wonderful, memorable experience. So anybody who can take that trip, it's a treat.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So you got some other stops involved in this American tour you're doing. Where are you going after Colorado?
Yeah, well, I did the Convergence in LA, and Ben Bowler was basically the instigator for this trip. He said, why don't you come and make a presentation? Okay. And so he invited me, and then Rick and Margie were on our team.
Rick Lyon. And Susan. And that's these guys here at Cosmic Creations from Melchizedek.
I'd like to say we have our first year-end celebration before Christmas last year. We did a celebration, and I read the names of 44 Urantians who worked on these projects, the app, the museum, and the cinematic in 2022. And the team is growing. And, we just take it one step at a time. We pray a lot as individuals and as a group that if this is the Father's will, and the people, the talent, the treasure will arrive. That's my personal prayer. So people are hosting me. I spend a week with Stephen in his daughter's home, and Margie is like a second mom to me now. We traveled the Pacific Midwest, and we went to Oregon, and we went to see Lisa and Gary and spend a day with them, and Nathan Jensen.
Cool.
I'm here now in the Boulder area. I'm going to Dallas and Santa Fe and San Antonio and New Orleans to meet the cinematic team. This is becoming an amazing trip, and none of this was planned, but a lot of people are just opening their homes and their wallets and their hearts, and it's just humbling. It's amazing, and I feel this is like new energy coming into.
And how so?
We tell people about this, and the ones who are connected to Jesus and want to share Jesus with the world, I think the most interesting thing about these projects in the last few months is that we're narrowing down our target audience to young people. And I tell this as a joke when I meet Urantians and I give this presentation. I say, who's the youngest person in the room? And it's usually me. And I'm 54. And my son, who's 21, calls me the old man. So I'm not young anymore.
Right.
And of course, where are the young people? And how can we reach them?
Yeah.
So telling the stories of Jesus in film, with an app, in a simplified manner, in a way that is spiritually fragrant, I think that's it hasn't been done before. And if it's not us, then who?
Yeah, that's the way I feel too. It's like, look, if I'm thinking of this, that means it's my responsibility to give it a try, get this out there. And also, like, I grew up Roman Catholic. I had the whole Jesus died for your sins thing just beat into me, literally. And it was hard for me to not be offended by all that, especially as I got into an adult. But once I found the Urantia book and I could have that hero again of Jesus, just how dynamic he is and was. And it's inspiring and uplifting for me to not feel that I have to live by these restrictions that are expected upon me by an institution, and that suppresses my own expression, my own unique expression. And so, that's why I commend people who are going after projects where you almost lift up Jesus to allow him to liberate every other individual who comes across him, right? And what better than to have youth be inspired to see what they could do with that. And so then the challenge I always find lies in how can one present the dynamic and well-balanced character of Jesus when there is such stereotypes about him already.
Mm-hmm. So our approach is going to be threefold. You're going to come to a museum somewhere in Israel, but hopefully in other cities in the world later. We're going to show you in film what we can. The stories from the Orange Book are amazing. There's so much there, so many characters and twist lines and plot lines. And so we're doing our best to present all of that. And in the app, we're basically writing something from scratch. And we're doing this with young people in mind. Even the entire app was designed by Lisa after a consultation process with young Urantians. We did a focus groups with Angie and Shane and Juan and May and Alexander. So 5 millennial Urantians. And then we actually put ourselves in the shoes of young people and read primary research to find out what is it that they're looking for when they're truth seeking. And we try to build this product. And now what we're going to do is, once we release the first version, we're going to ask them, what is working? Is this working for you? And iterate until we find the right fit to inspire people with the stories of Jesus. So I think what we have to do is bring him to life in a way that people can relate to. And one more thing I want to say again is, we can talk about a personal relationship with God that is not in need of intermediaries or dogma or anything specific, any belief system in specific, which is what the young people are saying. They are trying to unbundle. They're saying, okay, let's say I was born Christian. I may want to go to church from time to time, but not every Sunday. And I may want to do meditation or mindfulness or yoga, or maybe read from other traditions, or maybe do circles with other friends, or go on a retreat, or maybe even do some medicine and have a special journey to find out deeper truths. And so they're trying to build a customized experience. And we hope that the app is going to be, and the movies are going to be part of their smorgasbord of options of how to connect to God. Because this is what this planet needs. More people that decide to put God first, and they have to find their own path. We cannot do this for each other. So,
yeah. I think about that millennial experience of putting together a personal religion bric-a-brac style. You know what that means? A bric-a-brac, a piece from that, piece from that, piece, and then just kind of putting it all together. And then, I was kind of like that. And then once Jesus really became the centerpiece for everything, all that other stuff was just, it didn't go away, but it wasn't the foundation. You know what I mean? It's not the source of my spiritual expression. And so that's why I'm really excited to think of opportunities of how young people can be relieved from too much stress of trying to put together the perfect religion for their practice, and just kind of be liberated in knowing who they are now.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned all those things because I tried them all. And this was part of my journey. And the Urantia book, and then Jesus came much later when I was ready for that. But even then, it's okay. How do I take this into practical daily life? So prayer and worship and meditation and action, right? So love another person. Do another kind thing today. Think about this person as your brother or your sister, and act on that. If you can do that every day, 24/7. This world will not look the same.
Now, let me ask you personally, was it finding Jesus in the Urantia book for you that created that character transformation for you, like this love someone else each day, some type of thing, maybe getting out of any self-centeredness or something like that.
Yeah, I think for me, the Urantia book came when I was already deep into exploration. So I was in yoga, and I spent more than a whole year in something like a yoga boot camp in Thailand with yogis, and I tried so many things, so many practices. And the Urantia book came after that, so I was already cooked, so to speak. And when I started reading, I didn't understand the forward at all.
Sure.
But even the forward, I knew that this thing is true. I cannot prove it. And that was my basic premise. So when I got to part 4, and I understood who Michael is, and then Jesus became Michael on earth for me. So because I had no Christian baggage, I had nothing to put in context. So
Sure.
For me, the journey was not through Christianity. And maybe I was lucky I didn't have anything to drop, but I had a lot of things to acquire.
Okay.
And so my life changed when I understood that Jesus and Michael are one, and Michael was on this planet, and he's my creator son. So, and one day I will be standing, kneeling, floating, whatever, sitting in a class of people in Salvington, pledging my allegiance. I don't know.
I think you probably already are pledging
whatever.
allegiance. Yeah.
No, so I'll be there. And if I have a chance, I will be able to say personally, I'm your child. I come from your world. And as soon as I knew who you are, I dedicated the rest of my life to telling people, on my sisters and my brothers, this is what you came here to show us. You came to show us the Father. And how can we live with the Father? How can we do the Father's will, which is a dynamic thing? How can we incorporate God into our life? So this is my practice now. I practiced many other things before, but now I'm basically trying to emulate what Jesus did. And so showing people what Jesus was, for me, is like, here, take a look at what a person who did that, who found God while he was on earth and lived that to the max. So if you're interested in spirituality, you have to study this thing. It's an example. It's like the best example. We don't have to say the best because some people will get offended. So it's one of the best examples, for sure, right?
It's the best one I've found.
Yeah. But if you're Hindu or Buddhist or Muslim, so talking about Jesus before Christianity is like saying, well, it might be safe for you to explore this story and see if there's value for you there. He was a very advanced spiritual person. And if you're interested in spirituality, if you're a truth seeker, you will do well by studying and getting inspired. There's nothing for you to change. We just want to add something new to you. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be our angle. So it's unassuming, and we hope that it will serve people. And
all right, man. Well, this has been really good content, and I'm super proud of you, bro. If there's anything that I could do to support in any way, let me know. Obviously, I don't have a lot of finances, but
we just ask for prayers.
Yeah.
And I will say that some Urantians and some others are, let's say, they might say that this is too big or too ambitious or too soon or too fast. And I don't have an answer to all those questions. I just know that I pledged myself to our Father, and my personal prayer is the perfect ideas, talent, and treasure arrive when and as needed. I did everything in my life to be positioned so I can work on these projects full time. We have a large team of people. We have 2 nonprofits. We have executive boards and advisory boards and project teams. And we're building an organization that can do all these things. It's a lot of work. What we ask first and foremost is for people to pray. And we ask our unseen brothers and sisters who actually are very capable on this planet to help us. So we literally ask them. But all the help will come through our brothers and sisters. So there's opportunities to be ambassadors, there's opportunities to be volunteers, and there's opportunities to help us financially. And we need all of that. So if you want to be in touch and you have questions, we have a newsletter that goes out every 21st of the month. And we have a monthly Ask Me Anything meeting, which is open to the public every fourth Wednesday. And you can get an invite for that and just come and meet us and ask questions and get to see that we're real people, not midwayers.
Cool. Oh, that's great,
Yeah,
man.
so-
I appreciate just the down to earth spirit of all this, that it's not so high in the cloisters, holier than thou type of adventure or project. You're actually just working with friends and good, decent people. You know, I think that's real important. That's, from my experience, that's how the good projects take off. So I think you're in good hands. And I pray to the Father that you get everything that's needed and all the support is there for you. So may the Spirit of truth guide you in every way. Well, my friend, thank you so much for coming by and hanging out. And if there's any parting words you'd like to share with us or anything like that before we say goodbye.
I really want to give thanks to seen and unseen beings. Our team is too many to mention, but I love you all. And there's Sandra knows, because for many years, and I will probably cry now, so you can cut it off. But for many years, I felt very alone, not lonely. And, you know, these big ideas were put in my head and I didn't know what to do. And I think the first ones who stepped up were Rick and Susan. And in any way possible, in many ways, they're like a bulwark of this organization. And many others came. And I feel just inspired just to do this work with so many people. And so first and foremost, our team. But we're surrounded with so many beings that literally their job is to help us. And we have to ask. So I ask them, you know, I say, help us do this and this and this and this. And so we pray a lot. And this is a prayer. You know, this interview for me is a prayer. It's like somebody needs to hear something. So I asked my Father, you know, just tell me what to say. And somebody will hear something. And this is how it goes on this planet. So just to say thanks. It's a great adventure. I don't feel alone anymore, which is pretty awesome. And you know, the other problem I have now is with Sandra that says that I'm working too much.
Oh, she feels alone now because you're working too much.
But so I'm handling that.
Well, hang in there, Sandra. We love you. We'll see you. Well, thank you, Gabriel. I appreciate it so much, man. You know, this hard work for the kingdom that sometimes isn't recognized, and that's okay. That's the work that we're doing, spreading seeds. And I wish you all the best. And I will include links and everything to this stuff so people can check it out. And if this meets them and they feel that they want to support, I'm sure people will come out and support, man.
Thank you.
So thank you again, Gabriel. And thank you everyone at home for joining us. Please leave a comment, a like, a share, a question for Gabriel, a question for me, a question for Kitty, and we'll try to get back to you. And as always, thanks for joining us, and God bless.